The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft hiss, and Ambassador Jake Morrison stepped inside. The enormous room stretched out before him like a cathedral made of crystal and light. Hundreds of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose up toward the domed ceiling. Their strange forms and colors created a sight that still amazed him, even after 3 years of diplomatic service. Commander Lisa Brooks walked beside him, her black military uniform standing out among the flowing robes and exotic clothing of the other species. Her hand rested near her weapon, a habit she had developed during their time dealing with less friendly alien races. Jake knew she was watching everything, ready to protect him if needed. The air in the chamber hummed with translation devices, turning the dozens of alien languages into words Jake could understand. The smell was strange too, a mix of different atmospheres and alien biology that reminded him they were far from Earth. Jake had been humanity's voice in this place for 3 years now. When humans first made contact with the galactic community, they had been treated like children who just learned to walk. The other races saw them as primitive newcomers who barely knew how to travel between stars. Humans were given one small sector of space and told to stay there while the older, wiser species watched over them. A tall being with skin that changed colors like oil on water approached them. Jake recognized him as Counselor Vex from the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians thought they were better than most other races, and they especially looked down on humans. Ambassador Morrison, the alien said through his translation device, his voice sounding like wind through metal pipes. The Council grows concerned about your species' recent activities. We have received reports of construction in areas where humans should not be building. Jake kept his face calm and friendly, the way diplomats were trained to do. Inside, his heart was beating faster. They had hoped to keep their project secret for a few more months, but it seemed their time had run out. Counselor Vex, Jake replied with a slight bow. Humanity always follows the treaties we have signed. If there are concerns, we are happy to discuss them with the full council. The Zephyrian skin shifted to darker colors, which Jake knew meant anger or suspicion. Yes, I believe such a discussion will happen very soon. Chancellor Thorne has called for an emergency session. Lisa stepped closer to Jake, her soldier instincts picking up on the tension. She had fought in the border wars before humanity joined the galactic community, and she knew when trouble was coming. Her people back on Earth were counting on them to keep humanity's place in the galaxy secure. The great bell in the center of the chamber rang 3 times, and all conversation stopped. Chancellor Thorne rose from his seat at the highest point of the room. The old being was ancient even by galactic standards, and his species had helped create the Council thousands of years ago. When he spoke, everyone listened. Representatives of the galactic community. Chancellor Thorne's voice echoed through the chamber without need for amplification. We gather today to address serious concerns about humanity's recent actions. Jake felt hundreds of alien eyes turn toward him and Lisa. Some looked curious, others seemed worried, and a few appeared almost hostile. He knew that many species still didn't trust humans. They thought humans were too aggressive and unpredictable. A new figure entered the chamber from a side door. Captain Zoller of the Hegemony Patrol Fleet moved with the deadly grace of a born predator. His species were some of the finest warriors in the galaxy, and they took their role as peacekeepers very seriously. Honorable Chancellor, Captain Zolar said, his mandibles clicking as he spoke. 3 days ago, my patrol detected massive energy signatures from the dead space between the Outer Rim territories. Long-range scans show industrial activity on a scale we have never seen from human space. The chamber erupted in whispers and worried sounds. Jake knew this was the moment they had been preparing for. The secret construction project that humanity had been working on for 2 years was about to become very public. Holographic displays appeared in the center of the room, showing sensor readings and energy patterns. The data showed huge amounts of power being used, the kind of energy that suggested something much larger than anything humans were supposed to be building. The readings indicate construction of a vessel far beyond anything permitted under treaty. Section 47B, Captain Zoller continued. The energy signatures suggest a ship larger than even our greatest dreadnoughts. Lisa leaned close to Jake and whispered so quietly that only he could hear her. Sir, they have no idea what they're really looking at. Those readings are just from the construction scaffolding and support systems. Jake nodded slightly. The truth was much bigger than what the aliens suspected. What they had detected was just the framework being used to build something that would change everything. General Thane of the Dominion forces stood up from his seat. His people were considered the strongest military power in the galaxy, and their warships were legendary. When the Corvani spoke about military matters, everyone paid attention. If humanity has violated the construction treaties, General Thane rumbled, his voice like distant thunder, they must submit to immediate inspection. The balance of power in our galaxy cannot be disturbed by ambitious newcomers who do not understand their place. Jake felt anger rise in his chest at those words, but he forced himself to stay calm. The other species always talked about humans like they were children who needed to be controlled and guided. They had no idea what humanity was really capable of when pushed. Chancellor Thorne looked down at Jake with ancient eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Ambassador Morrison, humanity stands accused of building military vessels beyond the limits set by your membership treaties. How do you answer these charges? The moment Jake had been dreading and preparing for had arrived. In a few hours, everything would change. The careful diplomatic dance that had kept humanity safe but restricted was about to end. What happened next would determine whether humans remained junior members of the galactic community or became something much more significant. Jake looked up at the Chancellor and the hundreds of alien faces surrounding him. In the deepest parts of space, construction crews were putting the finishing touches on humanity's greatest achievement. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humans were not the primitive newcomers everyone thought they were. Honorable Chancellor, Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. Humanity is ready to answer all questions about our construction activities. However, I believe the Council will find our answers quite surprising. Captain Zoller moved to the center of the chamber, his predatory form commanding attention from every being present. His species had evolved from apex hunters, and even in diplomatic settings, he carried himself like death incarnate. The holographic displays around him showed detailed sensor readings that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. 3 days ago, my patrol ship detected energy readings from coordinates 847.3 by 291.7 in the neutral zone, Captain Zolar announced, his mandibles clicking with each word. The power signatures indicate massive industrial construction, using technologies we do not recognize. Jake Morrison watched the holographic data with growing tension. The readings showed exactly what he had feared they would show. Massive energy, spikes, industrial fusion reactors operating at full capacity, and gravitational distortions that suggested something enormous was being built in the darkness between stars. Commander Lisa Brooks studied the displays with her trained military eye. She had seen these exact readings before, during the classified briefings back on Earth. What the aliens were looking at was just the tip of something much larger and more dangerous than they could imagine. The construction site measures approximately 50 kilometers in length. Captain Zoller continued, his voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. No known civilization has attempted to build anything of this scale in over 1,000 years. The humans appear to be constructing some form of super dreadnought. Whispers filled the chamber as delegates turned to each other with growing alarm. The largest military vessels in the current galactic fleet measured only 5 kilometers from bow to stern. The idea of a 50-kilometer warship was beyond anything most species could comprehend. General Thane rose from his position among the Corvini delegation, his massive form dwarfing most other beings in the chamber. His people had built the finest warships in known space, vessels capable of cracking planets and reducing entire star systems to rubble. When he spoke about military matters, even the ancient Chancellor paid attention. If these readings are accurate, General Thane rumbled, humanity has violated not just construction treaties but the fundamental balance that keeps our galaxy stable. No single species should possess such overwhelming military advantage. Jake felt the weight of every gaze in the chamber. Hundreds of alien minds were trying to understand what humanity was really doing out there in the cold darkness. The truth was something none of them were prepared to hear. Dr. Patricia Kim stepped forward from her position behind Jake, her xenoarchaeology credentials giving her the right to address the Council on matters of historical significance. She had been quiet during most of their diplomatic missions, but her recent discoveries had changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. "Honored delegates," Dr. Kim began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. "Before we discuss construction violations, there is something the Council must understand about human history that changes the context of everything we are discussing." Chancellor Thorne leaned forward in his ancient seat, his eyes focusing on the human scientist with interest. In his thousands of years of life, he had learned that the most dangerous moments often began with unexpected historical revelations. "Dr. Kim," the Chancellor said, his voice echoing through the chamber, "the Council recognizes your expertise in xenoarchaeological matters. Please share what you believe is relevant to these proceedings." Dr. Kim activated a portable holographic projector, filling the space above the chamber floor with images of ancient ruins. The structures were clearly artificial, but their design was unlike anything most Council members had ever seen. The architecture was both alien and strangely familiar, with geometric patterns that seemed to follow mathematical principles. 6 months ago, human survey teams discovered these ruins on a planet we designated as New Carthage, Dr. Kim explained, her excitement barely contained despite the formal setting. Carbon dating and quantum resonance analysis indicate these structures are over 3 million years old. The chamber fell completely silent. 3 million years ago, most current civilizations had been primitive species struggling to master fire. Only a handful of ancient races like Chancellor Thorne's people had achieved interstellar travel by that time. "The remarkable thing about these ruins," Dr. Kim continued, manipulating the holographic display to show detailed close-ups, "is that the builders were undeniably human. Genetic material recovered from the site matches human DNA sequences perfectly. General Thane's weapon systems unconsciously activated, a reflexive response to perceived threat. Several other military delegates showed similar reactions, their survival instincts recognizing the implications of what they were hearing. You claim that humans existed in this galaxy millions of years ago?" Counselor Vex asked, his color-shifting skin cycling through shades that indicated deep confusion and growing fear. "This contradicts every historical record we possess." "Commander." Brooke stepped closer to Jake, her hand moving to rest on her sidearm. She could feel the mood in the chamber shifting from diplomatic concern to something much more dangerous. Military training had taught her to recognize the moment when talking stopped and shooting started. Jake knew this was the crucial moment. Everything humanity had planned for the past 2 years depended on how the Council reacted to this information. The evidence Dr. Kim was presenting would either secure humanity's future in the galaxy or mark them for destruction. "The genetic evidence is undeniable," Dr. Kim said, adding more holographic displays showing DNA analysis and comparative biology charts. "But more importantly, we found star charts carved into the deepest chambers of the ruins. These charts show territories that humanity once controlled, territories that encompass nearly 40% of what is now Council space. The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. If humans had once been a major galactic power, their current status as restricted junior members suddenly seemed not just inappropriate, but potentially catastrophic. Ancient powers that had been sleeping sometimes woke up angry. Captain Zolar moved closer to the human delegation, his predatory instincts fully engaged. "Even if this claim were true, it changes nothing about current treaty violations. The humans of today are not the humans of 3 million years ago." Jake smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Far beyond the reach of Council sensors, Captain Alex Turner was receiving final authorization codes for humanity's greatest achievement. The moment of revelation was approaching faster than anyone in the chamber realized. "You are absolutely correct, Captain," Jake agreed, his voice carrying new confidence. "We are not the same humans who built those ancient ruins. We learned from their mistakes, and we learned from their enemies. What we built out there in the darkness is not just a ship. It is proof that humanity remembers how to reclaim what was once ours." The chamber erupted in chaos as delegates began shouting demands and accusations. Emergency signals flashed as various species began calling for their military fleets. In the growing tumult, no one noticed Commander Brooks quietly activating her secure communication device and sending a coded message across the vast distances to the construction site where humanity's future waited in the darkness between stars. The chaos in the council chamber reached a breaking point as delegates began activating emergency protocols and calling for military support. Jake Morrison stood calmly in the center of the storm, watching as 3 million years of carefully maintained galactic order began to crumble around the simple truth of human ancestry. Commander Lisa Brooks received a soft chime in her earpiece, indicating that her coded message had reached its destination. Somewhere in the cold darkness between stars, Captain Alex Turner and his crew were preparing for the moment that would change everything. She looked at Jake and gave him the slightest nod that confirmed their timeline was still on track. Chancellor Thorne raised his ancient hand and the chamber fell silent with the weight of absolute authority. His species had seen civilizations rise and fall across the eons, and his next words would determine whether the galaxy faced a new golden age or descended into the most devastating war in recorded history. Dr. Kim, the Chancellor said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. These claims about ancient human civilization require extraordinary evidence. The implications of what you suggest would fundamentally alter the balance of power that has kept our galaxy stable for millennia. Dr. Patricia Kim stepped forward again, her holographic projector displaying new images that made several council members gasp in recognition. The star charts carved into the ancient ruins showed star systems and trade routes that were still in use today. Navigation patterns that had been established so long ago that most species had forgotten their origins. The evidence goes beyond simple genetic matching, Dr. Kim explained, her scientific training keeping her voice steady despite the magnitude of her revelations. The quantum resonance signatures in the ruins match materials found in the oldest sections of this very station. Humanity did not just exist in this galaxy millions of years ago. We helped build the foundations of the civilization you now call the Council. General Thane activated his personal communication device, sending urgent messages to Corvani fleet commanders scattered across dozens of star systems. His military mind was already calculating response times and strategic positions, preparing for the possibility that humanity might try to reclaim their ancient territories by force, even if humans once held power in this galaxy, General Thane declared, his voice carrying the threat of barely contained violence. They clearly lost that power for reasons we do not understand. The current order exists for the protection and prosperity of all species. We cannot allow ancient claims to destabilize the peace we have built. Jake felt the moment arriving like a distant thunderstorm. The signal Brooks had sent was traveling at faster than light speeds toward coordinates that would soon become the most important location in galactic history. In approximately 10 minutes, the debate about human capabilities would become irrelevant. Captain, Solar moved closer to the human delegation, his predatory form radiating menace. I demand immediate disclosure of all human military capabilities and construction projects. If humanity possesses weapons or vessels beyond authorized specifications, they must be surrendered to Council oversight immediately. Commander Brooks turned to face the alien captain, her military bearing transforming her from diplomatic escort to something much more dangerous. Captain Zoller, humanity appreciates the Council's concern for galactic stability. However, we no longer recognize the Council's authority to limit human military development. The words hit the chamber like an explosion. No species had openly defied Council authority in over 1,000 years. The last civilization to attempt independence had been reduced to scattered refugee populations within 6 months. Councillor Vex's skin shifted to deep red colors indicating extreme agitation. This is madness. Humanity comprises less than 1% of galactic population and controls only a single star system. You cannot seriously believe you can stand against the combined might of the Council. Dr. Kim activated another section of her holographic display, showing ancient weapon signatures and energy patterns that several military experts in the chamber recognized with growing alarm. The ruins contain evidence of technologies that exceed anything currently deployed by Council forces. Gravitational manipulation systems, matter conversion reactors, and weapon platforms capable of sterilizing entire star systems. Jake watched as understanding began to dawn on the faces around him. The ancient humans had not been peaceful explorers who built monuments and traded with friendly neighbors. They had been a military power capable of enforcing their will across vast reaches of space, a civilization that had commanded fleets and conquered systems. General Thane's communication device chimed with responses from his fleet commanders. Corvani warships were moving into position around human space, but their estimated arrival time was still several hours away. If humanity attempts to deploy ancient weapons or threaten Council territories, the response will be immediate and overwhelming. The main viewing screen in the chamber suddenly activated without authorization, displaying an image of deep space that appeared completely empty, except for distant stars. Jake smiled as he recognized the coordinates. Captain Turner was right. On schedule. Honored delegates, Jake said, his voice carrying new authority that made several aliens step back instinctively. Humanity requests permission to demonstrate our current military capabilities. We believe a practical demonstration will resolve any questions about our technological development. Captain Zolar moved his hand toward his weapon, his hunter instincts screaming danger warnings that his conscious mind could not yet understand. There is nothing on our sensors at those coordinates. This is some form of human deception, the War. Communication system crackled to life, and Captain Alex Turner's voice filled the chamber with the confidence of a man who commanded absolute power. Council delegates, this is Captain Turner of the UES Leviathan, requesting permission to approach for the inspection demanded by the Council. Chancellor Thorne activated the chamber's most advanced sensor systems, scanning the coordinates displayed on the viewing screen. Our sensors detect no vessels at that location, Captain Turner. Please explain this discrepancy. Turner's laugh carried across the vast distances between stars, a sound that somehow conveyed both respect and barely contained anticipation. My apologies, Chancellor. We have been operating under full stealth protocols. Computer, disengage adaptive camouflage systems and reveal the Leviathan. The empty space on the viewing screen began to shimmer and distort like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Slowly, like a mountain emerging from morning fog, the outline of something impossibly massive began to materialize in the void. The assembled delegates fell completely silent as the true scope of humanity's achievement became visible. Where Council dreadnoughts measured 5 kilometers in length, the UES Leviathan stretched across 50 kilometers of space. Its hull gleamed with technologies that blended ancient design principles with innovations that defied current understanding of physics and engineering. Commander Brooks activated her personal recorder, documenting the exact moment when the galactic balance of power shifted forever. Around them, delegates began to understand that humanity had not just built a large warship. They had reconstructed something from the age when humans had ruled the stars, something that represented power beyond anything the current galaxy had imagined possible. The UES Leviathan hung in space like a dark god awakening from ancient slumber. Its massive hull reflected the light of distant stars, revealing details that made veteran military officers throughout the chamber question everything they thought they knew about ship construction and weapons technology. Captain Alex Turner's image appeared on the communication screen, his uniform bearing insignia that no council member recognized. Behind him, the bridge of the Leviathan stretched into the distance, filled with control systems and displays that operated on principles beyond current galactic understanding. Council delegates, Captain Turner said, his voice carrying the calm confidence of a man who commanded ultimate power. The UES Leviathan is ready for the inspection you demanded. However, I should warn you that our defensive systems are currently active due to the increased military traffic in the surrounding sectors. General Thane checked his tactical displays and felt his blood turn cold. The Corvani fleet moving toward human space had somehow been detected and tracked despite operating under full stealth protocols. Whatever sensors the humans were using were generations ahead of anything the Council possessed. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez appeared beside Captain Turner on the communication screen, his youthful appearance contrasting sharply with the advanced technology surrounding him. The Leviathan incorporates design principles recovered from ancient human ruins, enhanced with modern innovations our scientists developed over the past 5 years. She is not just a warship, but a complete industrial platform capable of constructing entire fleets. The implications of those words sent waves of panic through the military delegates. A single vessel that could build armies was not just a weapon, but a force capable of changing the entire balance of galactic civilization. Such technology had been theoretical until this moment. Commander Lisa Brooks stepped forward in the chamber, her hand no longer resting casually near her weapon but openly gripping it. The Leviathan represents humanity's return to our ancestral capabilities. We are no longer the primitive newcomers you have been managing and restricting. Chancellor Thorne activated emergency protocols, sending coded messages to fleet commanders across the galaxy. Every available warship was being recalled to defend the core systems, but even the combined Council fleet seemed inadequate against what humanity had revealed. Dr. Patricia Kim manipulated her holographic displays to show comparative analyses between the ancient ruins and the Leviathan's visible systems. The hull configuration matches designs found in the deepest chambers of the archaeological sites. Humanity has successfully reverse-engineered technologies that predate current galactic civilization. Captain Zolar's predatory instincts screamed warnings as he studied the massive vessel on the viewing screen. His species had evolved to recognize apex predators, and everything about the Leviathan radiated lethal capability. The ship was not just large but designed with killing efficiency that surpassed anything in his experience. "How many vessels of this class has humanity constructed?" Captain Zolar demanded, his mandibles clicking with barely controlled aggression. Captain Turner smiled, and Jake Morrison felt a moment of pride in his species' achievement. The years of secret construction and technological development had led to this moment when humanity could finally stand as equals among the galactic powers. "Admiral Kyle Bennett sends his greetings from Earth Command," Turner announced, activating additional communication channels. He reports that Construction Yard 7 has completed the UES Behemoth, and Construction Yard 12 will deliver the UES Colossus within 6 standard months. The revelation that humanity possessed multiple Titan-class vessels struck the chamber like a physical blow. Several delegates activated personal emergency beacons calling for immediate evacuation from the station. The idea of facing one such vessel was terrifying enough, but a fleet of them represented an existential threat to galactic civilization. Counselor Vex's skin cycled through colors indicating extreme fear and confusion. "This is impossible. Human, industrial capacity cannot support construction projects of this magnitude. Your entire species lacks the resources and manufacturing capability." Chief Engineer Rodriguez laughed, a sound that somehow conveyed both amusement and menace. "Counselor, you are thinking in terms of planetary manufacturing. The Leviathan and her sister ships were constructed using mobile industrial platforms that harvest materials directly from asteroid fields and gas giants. We are no longer limited by the resources of individual worlds." Jake watched as understanding dawned on the faces around him. Humanity had not just built large warships, but had developed the industrial infrastructure to build them anywhere in the galaxy. They were no longer dependent on fixed bases or established supply lines. General Thane received urgent updates from his fleet commanders scattered across dozens of systems. Corvani intelligence networks were reporting unusual activity in previously empty regions of space. Energy signatures that suggested massive construction projects hidden in the darkness between stars. "How long has humanity been preparing for this moment?" General Thane asked, his military mind calculating the scope of planning and resources required for such an undertaking. Dr. Kim smiled as she displayed timeline data showing the progression of human archaeological discoveries and technological development. "We found the first ancient ruins 7 years ago. Within 2 years, our scientists had decoded enough of the technology to begin preliminary construction. The Leviathan required 3 years to complete. The mathematical implications were staggering. If humanity had been secretly developing advanced technology for 7 years, their current capabilities might extend far beyond what they were revealing. The Titan-class warships could represent only the beginning of human military resurgence." Captain Turner manipulated controls on his command chair, and the Leviathan began to move with graceful precision that defied its massive size. The vessel's primary propulsion system utilizes gravitational manipulation technology recovered from the ruins. We can achieve faster-than-light speeds that exceed anything currently deployed by Council forces. Commander Brooks activated her personal communication device and sent another coded signal to coordinates unknown to the Council members. Jake recognized the authorization sequence for the next phase of humanity's revelation. "Delegates of the Galactic Council," Jake announced, his voice carrying the weight of species that had rediscovered their true nature. "Humanity no longer accepts the restrictions and limitations imposed upon us. We are reclaiming our place among the stars not as junior members seeking approval, but as the inheritors of an ancient legacy." The chamber fell silent as the full scope of humanity's transformation became clear. The species that had been carefully managed and controlled for 3 years had revealed themselves as something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The sleeping giants of galactic history had awakened, and they remembered how to wage war among the stars. The emergency session stretched through the station's night cycle as delegates huddled in desperate conference rooms, trying to understand how completely their galaxy had changed in the span of a few hours. The UES Leviathan maintained its position in the void, its massive presence serving as a constant reminder that humanity was no longer asking for permission. Captain Alex Turner materialized in the council chamber through advanced transportation technology that made several military advisors reach for weapons they knew would be useless. He was accompanied by Lieutenant Nick Watson and Sergeant Maria Santos, their confident bearing making it clear that they feared nothing the assembled galactic powers could threaten. Jake Morrison watched as Turner approached the center of the chamber, noting how the alien delegates unconsciously moved away from the human military officers. Fear was a universal language, and everyone present understood that the balance of power had shifted beyond recognition. Chancellor Thorne had lived through the rise and fall of civilizations, but nothing in his ancient experience had prepared him for this moment. The careful order that had maintained galactic peace for millennia was crumbling as humanity revealed capabilities that exceeded the combined might of the Council's greatest powers. "Captain Turner," the Chancellor said, his voice carrying thousands of years of diplomatic authority, "the Council requires clarification of humanity's intentions. The revelation of your military capabilities has created understandable concern among our member species." Turner smiled with the easy confidence of a predator that had revealed its true strength. "Chancellor, humanity's intentions are simple. We seek peaceful coexistence with all galactic civilizations, but we will no longer accept restrictions on our development or territorial expansion." General Thane activated his personal communication device, receiving updates from fleet commanders across the galaxy. The reports painted a picture of complete strategic disadvantage that made his warrior heart sink with despair. "Our combined fleets are moving into defensive positions, but early analysis suggests we face opponents with overwhelming technological superiority." Admiral Kyle Bennett's voice joined the communication from Earth's orbital command center, his words carrying across the vast distances to reach the assembled delegates. "General Thane, your fleets are impressive by current galactic standards, but they represent technology that humanity surpassed several years ago during our archaeological research." The implication struck the military delegates like physical blows. If humanity had been secretly developing advanced weapons for years, their current defensive preparations might be completely inadequate against the true scope of human capabilities. "Dr. Patricia Kim activated her holographic displays one final time, showing star charts that made several council members gasp in recognition. The ancient ruins contain navigation data for territories that humanity once controlled. These regions encompass approximately 40% of current council space. Councillor Vex's skin shifted to pale colors indicating complete terror. "You cannot seriously intend to reclaim ancient territorial claims. Such action would displace billions of beings and destroy the civilization we have built." Commander Lisa Brooks stepped beside Turner, her military bearing radiating the calm confidence of someone who commanded absolute force. "Humanity has no desire to displace existing populations or destroy established civilizations. However, we will expand into unclaimed territories and establish colonies wherever we choose. The distinction was important, but offered little comfort to the assembled delegates. If humanity could expand without restriction, their industrial and military capabilities would grow exponentially until no force in the galaxy could challenge their dominance. Captain Zolar received tactical updates from his patrol fleet scattered across dozens of systems. The reports confirmed what he had feared since the Leviathan's revelation. Human vessels have been detected in 17 different sectors, all operating under stealth systems that our sensors cannot penetrate. They have been watching us for months. Jake felt a moment of satisfaction as the scope of human preparation became clear to the Council. While the aliens had been debating humanity's junior status and arguing about construction treaties, human ships had been mapping their territories and studying their defenses. Lieutenant Watson stepped forward, his youthful appearance contrasting with the advanced tactical data he carried. Our reconnaissance missions have identified significant weaknesses in current Council defensive arrangements. Your fleets are designed to fight each other using familiar technologies, not to counter the capabilities we have developed. The tactical assessment hit the military delegates like a death sentence. If humanity had been secretly studying Council forces while developing superior weapons, any conflict would be over before conventional forces could respond effectively. Chancellor. Thorne called for order as panic began to spread through the chamber. His ancient wisdom recognized that this moment would determine whether galactic civilization faced a new era of cooperation or complete domination by a resurgent human empire. The Council must address the fundamental change in galactic balance, the Chancellor announced, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Humanity's technological capabilities clearly exceed our previous assessments and require immediate recognition. Dr. Kim smiled as she displayed the final piece of evidence that would reshape galactic politics. The ancient star charts show trade routes and diplomatic territories that suggest humanity once maintained peaceful relationships with dozens of alien species. We prefer cooperation to conquest, but we will not be restricted or managed by powers that we now exceed. General Thane made the calculation that would define his legacy as a military leader. The combined Council fleets represented the greatest concentration of firepower in recorded galactic history, but they faced opponents who had successfully reconstructed technologies from an age when humans had ruled the stars. The Corvani Dominion acknowledges humanity's return to galactic prominence, General Thane declared, his words carrying the surrender of the galaxy's greatest military power. We propose immediate renegotiation of all existing treaties to reflect current capabilities. The session concluded with formal recognition of humanity as a major galactic power with full territorial and military rights. The age of human restriction had ended, replaced by a new era where the descendants of ancient star conquerors reclaimed their birthright among the civilizations of the galaxy. Captain Turner led his delegation back to the Leviathan as the Council began the complex process of restructuring galactic civilization around humanity's revealed power. The massive vessel disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward territories that would soon bear human colonies and industrial platforms. In the depths of space, construction crews continued their work on additional Titan-class vessels that would ensure humanity's dominance remained unchallenged. The galaxy had learned that some species were too dangerous to restrict, and humanity had proven that ancient powers sometimes returned stronger than ever before.